I'm not going to go over the details of how we exactly go about setting our team up, but I wanted to just go over a few of the things that we've been working on over the last few months. Okay. First thing is in modern soccer, when you're dealing with coaching at kind of the higher level, there's 5 different areas that you look at. One is how your team plays when you're set up and you have the ball. So in other words, if our goalkeeper has the ball, how do we want to play? So that's the first thing. Second thing is, how do you defend when the opposition has the ball and you're set? So in other words, they have a goal kick, how do you want to defend? The third thing is, how do you attack the second you win the ball? How do you defend the second you lose the ball? And then the fifth element is set plays. So basically everything we do is focused around those 5 pillars of the game. So if you ever come and watch a training session, you can be sure that one of the 5 things is what is working. Usually you work on 2 at once. So you'll work on how you defend as a team and how you counter-attack. So those are all things that we work on fairly consistently. In terms of systems, I just wanted to go over a few things because people are always asking, like, what formation do you play? And I think people get too bogged down in that. So most of the time teams will play something like a 4-4-2. And they kind of just say, oh yeah, it's a 4-4-2, and they don't really discuss the intricacies of it. For us, if we're attacking, the game might be like a 4-2-4. So that would be your midfield there, that would be your forwards there. When we lose the ball, we often become like a 4-5-1. So that would be your defensive shape there. So if you're looking for things in the game, you probably start to recognise that it's not always the same. Now, not everybody will need to know that level of detail, but to understand that's important, because how you play based on where the ball is much more important than just saying we always play a 4-4-2, or we always play a 4-5-1, or we always play a 4-3-3. And that's something that most people don't really recognise and don't really understand, and if you can get that right, it can help you as you analyse the game. Any questions on that so far? Yep.
I have one. So from the 60s and the 70s, it used to be 4-2-4, right?
Yep.
And so there's some changes, so 2 forward got eliminated. So now according to the system, like a 4-4-2 or whatever. So I want to put you on the spot. So you got now 9 forwards.
Yeah.
So I mean,
we've got 9 defenders too.
you can only use 4 defenders, right?
Yeah.
In a game.
Well, you could use 5 or 3.
Yeah, but you cannot use more than 3 forwards.
Yeah. Well, we often, like I say, we often use 4 forwards because we can quite easily, if we wanted to, we could play with Atiba Harris, who's a forward,
yeah.
Camillo, who's a forward, Letou or Darren Maddox, Eric Hasley, and then when we lose the ball, those guys can drop in and give cover, and that guy can drop in and the system changes. So we can do that, and we do that, and we did that all pre-season. Yep.
What factors do you take into account to decide what formation you take? Is it the players you have, or you're going to use that game, or is it the other team? How do you decide?
Yeah, a little bit of both. I mean, I don't think we always play exactly the same. We adjust it based on what the opposition present us with, or what we expect they'll present us with. At the same time, if you don't have the players to do it, you can't set up a certain system. So as you're building your squad and adding players, you're obviously doing that with a plan in mind.
And what are the advantages of one formation compared to another?
Yeah, I mean, I think most people would say that the system is much more about how the players interact within the system. So even if you look at Barcelona, for example, they play a 4-3-3, but when they have the ball, they have 2 strikers a lot of the time, so they play 4-2-4. So it's much more to do with how your players interact, rather than is it a 4-4-2 or a 4-3-3 or whatever.
Martin, was this new to them in any sense? Your philosophy of playing this way? I mean, are you taking from a little bit of what they did last year, or is it, no, this is how I like to play, guys, and this is how we change? Was it big an adaptation?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it was quite a lot of new information, and they seem really happy that they've been given that, and they seem really up for learning about it, and although it's maybe new, they've picked it up pretty quickly.
So is it more important that they play good soccer as opposed to playing their position?
It's most important that they win. Good soccer or positions, you know, those are all important, but for me it's really about winning, and I think you want to play good soccer, you want to pass the ball, you want to do all those things, but ultimately if you don't play great but you still win, then that's the most important thing.
Have you been preaching an overall philosophy in terms of, I think when you first got here, I think you were talking about maybe attacking more. How do you tell them that, and is that in fact what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean that's where it comes back to these kind of 5 main pillars of the game. You focus on how you want to defend as a group, how you want to attack as a group, and then overall what's your general philosophy, and that is, we don't want to just be sitting back all the time. We do want to be on the front foot, we do want to be attacking and causing problems as much as we can, and then it's it's an attitude as much as it is tactical. So let me give you a couple other things, and then if there's more questions I'll be happy to answer that as well. Within soccer, so I've given you the 5 pillars of the game, which are how we set up our training. The kind of next 4 main areas that we focus on are, there's physical elements to the game, tactical elements to the game, there's psychological, and there's technical. Okay, so most of the time technically the players have a fair idea of what they're doing by the time they get to the MLS, but there are guys obviously that we always work on certain things. Tactically, we've talked about a couple of things there. Physically, with Rick Celebrini and with others, we feel like we've added a lot to their fitness. So when we train a specific energy system on a Monday, let's say their aerobic system, and we go full out on that really, really hard. And then on a Tuesday, we can go full out on another energy system, for example, their anaerobic system, and that allows us to train much, much harder, but not drain them and not kill them. So those are things that we work on a lot. But the biggest thing for me is the psychology and getting people to play to their absolute maximum potential. And one of the things that we talk about a lot with the players is that if this is their actual potential as a player, their physical potential, most of the time they operate within limits that are a lot less than their full potential, and those limits are self-imposed limits that they have on their own mind, and we all have it, whether it be in soccer or whether it be in public speaking or whatever it is we do have limits that we impose on ourselves or that have been imposed on us by other people. So for example, there's a lot of the players that we work with who maybe don't think they're very good at heading the ball, even though they're 6 foot tall and very powerful. They've been told when they were a kid that they're not any good at it, and then they've had other people reinforce that thought in their mind, and before you know it, they don't think they're any good at heading the ball, and they kind of give up on it. Same with guys who say, well, I'm no good with my left foot, or I just never score goals. Well, why is that? That's because you've come to believe that about yourself. Just like you get people in school who say, well, I'm the kind of guy who's great at math, but I'm just no good at English. And that's what their life has become because they've believed that so much about themselves. So for me, a massive part of my job is re-engineering their self-image to let them believe that, hey, I'm actually much, much better than I thought. And what we're trying to do is get guys as close to their physical capabilities as we possibly can get them. And in order to do that, they have to revisit a whole load of things in their life that maybe aren't true, that they've come to believe about themselves, that are really holding them back and that are limiting their chances to succeed. And that's basically a chance to re-engineer their self-image. By doing that, by putting maybe some positive affirmations into their head, by visualizing things in detail so that when they come to the games they're ready to actually play, and then by creating an environment where hopefully the other coaches and the staff can encourage people instead of killing them all the time, we find that we can get the absolute best out of our players. And that's what we're working on the most right now, is teaching a group of guys who were the last team last year that they can be the best team this year. And obviously there's some physical limits to that, and we've got a lot of work to do to make that happen, but the last thing we want to do is limit ourselves mentally, and so that's what we're really focused on now, and that's where I think we've had the biggest benefit in pre-season. That's where we get the most encouragement, because we see guys that are struggling for confidence becoming better and stronger and up much closer at their potential, and once we see that, then it's exciting, because you know, hey, we've got a chance to be successful here, and that's really where we're at right now, and we've got to keep that growing. And you guys can help as well with little comments here and there to the guys. It can always be useful. So that's, to me, a major thing. You probably won't make sense when you look at it now, but all we're trying to say is we can get more out of these guys. We can get these guys to their full potential, and when we do, they're going to be good. Any questions on that?
So what will it take for you to bench a player based on not performing 100%? Are you the type of coach that will say you don't perform this game, you go to the bench, or you are the type of coach that are very patient?
It just depends. The thing about our squad is there's so much competition that if guys are consistently not performing in training and on the field, then there's another guy who is ready to do it. So there's competition there, which is a real part of professional sports. But at the same time, I don't feel like it's wise to get a guy on the field and then punish him every time he makes a mistake, because then guys get scared to make mistakes. Once you're scared to make mistakes, you can't be at your best, and then boom, confidence goes down, people don't want the ball, and then your team doesn't look like a good passing team, and it's hoping for the best and it's hoping to be lucky, and you know, we try and avoid that. If guys are consistently not able to understand what their job is on the team, that's the coach's fault. That's not their fault. If after a while we try all the different ways of teaching them and they still can't get it, that might be their fault at that point. But we don't just jump on people and blame them. We take responsibility for trying to help them be better.
With that philosophy, can you give us a name of someone who's embraced that and with all the positive has really broke through in the last 6 or 7 weeks?
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, Eric Hasley, I mean, I think that he's a fantastic player, but he's nowhere near his full potential yet. Even in the games that, you know, when I first came, he didn't seem that powerful in the air. Now he seems very dominant and powerful and strong in the air. He also has lost a lot of weight, got himself fitter and stronger, playing with a smile on his face. And if you get the best out of Eric Hasley, then you've got a really dangerous player on your hands. And I think there's a few guys like that. You know, I think like Longtan over the last few weeks has really come on and shown a lot more than I thought he had at the start, and a lot of that is confidence. And I think, you know, a lot of these guys do benefit from being in a positive environment. In a lot of sports, it's about the guys with the thickest skin make it, and they're not necessarily always the most talented people. So we want to try and make sure that if guys have got talent, we're doing all we possibly can to get them to their full potential. And if they get there, guys like Davide Cumiento, if you get him to his full potential, it's great to watch. He's a very dangerous player. So it's a big project, but it's always worth working on if they've got that kind of ability.
So what's the difference between arrogance and self-confidence?
Well, I think arrogance often comes from a lack of confidence. I think arrogance often comes from people who are not as comfortable in their skin as they should be, and they start to act a little bit ego-driven and don't really have confidence. People with confidence don't need to tell you how good they are. They just go and they focus on doing their job and they get results, and they don't shout from the rooftops. Other people can do that for them. So I think that's maybe the balance. But it's a tough line to tread. So one of the things we also do is we like to try and show guys clips of things. When people learn, they learn through seeing things, by doing things, or by hearing things. So what we're trying to focus on is give as much information as we can in different formats, so that when people learn, we're catching everybody. Some guy might just need to go out and do it on the field one time and he's got it. Someone else might need to see it on the video a few times and then he'll get it. So what we also do is to try and show people what we want. We try and show them like the top players, the top teams doing it, and say this is how we want to do certain things, and this is what some of these clips will be.
Yeah, so this right here is just working with central defenders, and we're just showing them how central defenders like to play diagonal balls in. So you'll see right here, he collects the ball, drives it out, and you know what we'll use these games for. These are the top teams in the world, and what we'll do sometimes is just show the guys that, hey, this is, when we talk about this in a training session, this is actually what we're talking about, you know, and we'll show them just loads and loads of clips of it working, and then, you know, we also then will break up a game of our game and show them when they do it, how it works, and show them when they don't do it, obviously how it won't work.
So for example, if we're trying to teach them that we don't want the centre backs to play straight passes, then this is a very good visual, you know, reminder of this is the kind of passes we do want to play out the back, for example. And then as Jake says, once we have good examples of our own team, which we're getting more examples of now, then we show that from our own perspective, and that becomes more powerful for the players to see. Is there any others you want to show? Or?
I have all these other teams going on,
yeah.
But we can.
So we don't need to go through every single one, but basically what we do is we have a system called ProZone that allows us to analyse every game, that allows us to see how many passes were complete, where they were completed to, and where we won the ball back, and all those types of things that we want to make predictable. And then we use video clips to show the players that what they've done well. Going back to the point about building self-confidence, we try not to use video just to teach people what they did wrong. We try and show them what they did right and how they can do it better. So that's kind of how we use the tool, and obviously there's a lot more to it than that, but those are the basics of what we do. Yep.
Martin, how much of it is patterns of play that you work on that I get it, I know he's going to get it, and how much of it is improvisation?
I mean, we work quite a lot on patterns of play, but we do it with a freedom so that players can choose what they see as the best option at the time. But if they're consistent, you know, there's sometimes certain teams where we say, look, this particular team, if we do this consistently, we're going to cause them problems. So make sure we consistently do this, and we maybe overemphasize that one point, and then when the game comes, they'll do it a little bit more often. But you know, we do work on patterns of play and try and work towards the strengths of the players.
And then scouting is identifying what the other team does to try to stop that from happening, is that?
Yeah, and scouting is often where is the spaces that they leave us to play in, where are their strengths that we have to make sure we're strong against, where are the areas that we see are weak so that we can improve upon, you know, exploiting those areas, that type of thing. And usually, you know, that's something which between Jake and the other coaches, by the time it comes to the week, we've got a report written up so we can focus on that for the whole week, so that the whole week's based on how we're going to play that particular game.
You mentioned Prozone. What sort of use do you make of those sorts of advanced statistics systems in your coaching?
Well, I mean, we use it quite a lot. I've used Prozone since probably the last 4 or 5 years, and I find it's very helpful, and I really find it helpful to build players' confidence, because a lot of times guys think they haven't had a good game, but you can use the statistics to show them, hey, you actually did quite well, here's the areas you need to improve, that kind of thing. But it's very useful. I mean, we've got it set up so we can even see how far the players ran and at what speed and that kind of stuff. So if a guy wasn't working hard, he can't hide. Anything else?
Good.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marty.
You haven't got your presentation, the team's at the back there.